Hi everyone, I'm Celeste. Welcome to my booktube channel, A Reader's Almanac. 'Tis the season. It's that time of the year again. It is time for Victober. If it is the month of Victober, then I am reading Victorian literature. For those of you who don't know, Victober is a month-long readathon hosted by a bunch of really wonderful people. I will put all of their information down below so that you can watch their announcement videos as well. So I would like to share with you a sort of epiphany that I had, and this took place long ago when I was a student of English at the University of Toronto up in Canada. And I was studying Victorian literature, and this was before YouTube was really a big thing. And in the fall, they had an expedition taking a bus out to a place called Harthouse Farm. This was a very sort of ramshackle farmhouse, and we all went out there for the day, and we picked apples in the old orchard, and then we brought them back to an actual hand-cranked manual cider mill, and we made our own cider. And even though it was a bright blue October sky and the trees had, all the leaves had changed color and the leaves were orange and the air was crisp, we worked up quite a thirst going around and around and around in circles, cranking that cider mill handle. And we pressed apples upon apples upon apples, and even though it was unpasteurized, we sat there and we would put our mason jars under the where the apple cider was coming out and just drink it fresh, like right from the apples. It couldn't have been any newer. And then we went in and we baked apple pies. And the whole time we were at the farm and in the orchard and making cider and all of this, and sitting on hay bales, we sat with our teaching assistants from our Victorian lit class. And I remember my teaching assistant was going through all of her favorite novels from the Victorian era. So we were having conversations with our fresh cider in the mason jar, talking about Jane Eyre and the Brontes and Dickens and the almshouses and the workhouses and the poor and all of that, and Wuthering Heights. I remember she was talking in particular about Wuthering Heights, and just looking out over the hay bales and haycocks and the farm fields at the old Harthouse Farm with our pressed apple cider, and then going in and having this big fieldstone fireplace and sitting around that and singing and talking about Victorian books was just something that was so epiphanic for me. It was an epiphany. I've never forgotten it. And so long before Victober actually started, I associated Victorian literature with the fall. So this particular readathon is perfect for me. I absolutely love it. I participate in it every year, some years to a greater extent than others. Last year I read a ton of things. This year I've pared it down a bit. I'm going to be sharing with you a pile of possibilities of all the things, all of the wonderful books, the things that I would like to read, and we'll see how many I actually get to, because in other videos that I'll be sharing with you, I do have a lot of other reads that I want to get done in October as well. But let's dive right into Victober 2024. So every year, the hosts of Victober provide prompts. I'm not going to be doing the individual prompts, but I have a feeling as I go through this list that many of the selections I've made will actually qualify for these prompts. I wanted to read more of Trollope's Barchester series, and last year I had read The Warden. And this year I was bound and determined that I was going to read Barchester Towers. And I did that. I have already read Barchester Towers. So this is my copy of this particular book. That's a Penguin classic. I love the idea of Anthony Trollope as an author. I love the world that he creates. I appreciate his humor greatly and his satire. I love his caricatures. I love to listen to Barchester Chronicles going to sleep at night. I have the entire thing dramatized on Audible, and there are some great actors in that production. So I do love it, but at the same time, I sometimes struggle to stay interested in the specific plot lines. There are a lot of characters. There's a lot of comedy. I do like that. Trollope is very mirthful. But I'm not a person who likes a great deal of asides to the reader. I don't like I like stories that have a very active plot line. This happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and suddenly this person came in, and then they all left and they went here, but alas, this happened, and this person, this misfortune befell them, and then this person fell in love. This seems to go a lot slower than that, and it's also dealing with the subject of the politics of the clergy and church life. And while I find that interesting as a footnote or a side story, to have it be the main emphasis of the story is a bit more difficult for me. But having said all that, Trollope is fine. I'm willing to go on and soldier through with some more Trollope. Next up in line for me is Dr. Thorne, and I did buy a copy of that, so we'll see what we see. Also last year, I had read my very first Elizabeth Gaskell novel, and that was North and South. Wow, did I start off appreciating Elizabeth Gaskell with a bang. That was wonderful. I absolutely fell in love with Elizabeth Gaskell, and I loved that book. It got better and better and better and better, and I was just staying up late at night turning the pages. So this year I did want to read something else by Gaskell if I have time. I have two choices here. I have been wanting to get to Cranford and Cousin Phyllis. I may read one or both. I do understand that Cranford is more like a series of sketches. I love the TV series that they did for Cranford and with Judi Dench, and absolutely love it. Fell in love with that. I own them on DVDs, the whole Cranford collection. So I think I would be just fine with whatever Cranford turns out to be. I also have that on audio. And then I was also given a copy of Ruth by Elizabeth Gaskell. Look at this lovely, lovely illustration on the cover here. It's gorgeous. Yeah, so I have a feeling that this would qualify for some of the challenges for 2024 Victober in terms of religion, moral beliefs, and so forth. So we'll see about that. I may get to Ruth, or I may just stick with Cranford, but we will see. Another part of Victober for 2024 is to honor two booktubers who were well beloved, who passed away. And so in honor of the two booktubers, there is an added incentive to read something by Wilkie Collins and something by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So I had not read any Wilkie Collins before, believe it or not. I've read short stories, but that's about it. So I did pick up a copy of The Moonstone, and I have started that. And I also have this on Audible. And so I'm kind of going back and forth between reading chapters of it and then listening to chapters of it. It is a bit chunky. I am enjoying it so far. And I have a feeling that this also fits some of the challenges for Victober, because I believe one is to read something that's in sort of an unconventional form. This includes different kinds of narration, and also is told through some documents. So there are family papers telling about the storming of Seringapatam and the loss of the diamond, and narrations by different characters. And the first character that I'm reading about here seems like he may be a little bit unreliable. So I don't know, does that fulfill one of the prompts? I hope so. I am enjoying it so far, so we will see. And then the other author that we were to read something by is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Now, I love Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and for the past couple of years, I have been enjoying the stories, the short stories of Sherlock Holmes, and also listening to those narrated on Audible by Stephen Fry. I have the entire collection, which is marvelous. You really should check that out. He's just such a marvelous narrator. But anyway, I am a huge Sherlock Holmes fan, even though Sir Arthur Conan Doyle himself was not. And in the past, I have studied Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in connection with World War I literature, believe it or not. But we are to read something from the Victorian period, so I do have the short stories. I did at our used bookstore also pick up a copy of A Study in Scarlet, and I may read that. I know a lot of folks are picking up this one, and it's not my favorite Sir Arthur Conan Doyle Sherlock Holmes story, I have to admit. I found the part about the Mormons in America misleading, like it's kind of inaccurate. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle kind of gets it wrong because he was basing his accounts of Mormons on people who did not like the Mormons, who were giving reports of them. So I don't know. I may read this again. Or I may just stick with the stories. I also happen to pick up the complete novels and stories. This is volume 2. I do have volume 1 somewhere around here. I'll have to check and see which of these might fit into the Victorian era to make sure they qualify. But in any event, I have those. And then to continue sort of a study unit on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, I'm also interested in other aspects of his life. So one is told in this book, Conan Doyle for the Defense, the true story of a sensational British murder, a quest for justice, and the world's most famous detective writer. And this is by Margalit Fox, who I actually went and heard give a talk on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle several years ago. And this is her autograph to me in this book. It was one of the best literary talks I have ever gone to. And she came to town, and I'll just read you the premise of this. This is a nonfiction book, by the way. So it says, a sensational murder, a scandalous wrongful conviction, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle to the rescue. In this thrilling true crime procedural, the creator of Sherlock Holmes uses his unparalleled detective skills to exonerate a man wrongly convicted of murder. And you find yourself in Scotland, in Glasgow. And it'll just give you a picture of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle sort of using his forensic abilities and his skills of deduction. And so the author kind of becomes the private investigator. Now, this actually occurs in the Edwardian period, not the Victorian period, but it is about the author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and there is a Sir Arthur Conan Doyle challenge as part of this year's Victober 2024, so I'm counting it. I'm relaxing the rules a little bit for myself personally. And then I also borrowed this from the library, and this is a more general work on spiritualism and seances. It's called Calling the Spirits, A History of Seances by Lisa Morton. Look at this picture. Is that not wonderful? So this is kind of like the creepy history of seances. And I think it's going to be really wonderful. And I know that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is mentioned in here as part of a history. And also it's just a perfect book for the month of October in general because of Halloween and everything. So, and if I don't get to it in October, I will be happy to read this in November as a part of Nonfiction November anyway. So it's a win-win. Well, I'm also doing a little bit of research on the Brontes this fall, and that is for the purposes of my boarding school video series, believe it or not. So I have been reading up on Charlotte Brontë in particular and the Brontes in general. If time permits, I may also do a read of Shirley. A lot of people have been talking about this on BookTube this past year, and it's made me curious about Shirley, and that is Charlotte Brontë. I also have this lovely copy of Agnes Grey that I might read. I don't think I will get to this, but the first time I read it, I don't think I did it a great deal of justice. So I really would love to read it again and approach it as if I'm reading it for the first time. Yeah, I remember when I was reading it, I felt like I was rushing through it, and that doesn't really do Anne Brontë justice. So I may get to this again. We will see. I also have this lovely, lovely copy of the illustrated letters of the Brontes. This is a nice hardcover edition. And so this is by Juliet Gardner, and it's the letters, diaries, and writings of Charlotte, Emily, and Anne. So there's the back of this. And so these are kind of like annotated letters and diaries. And I'll just show you some of the illustrations from this. Like here's one right here. So kind of doing some background research on the Brontes. So I think this will be perfect for that. And finally, if I have time, I would love to do a video on the oldest book that I own, the oldest book in my collection. And that is this book here, which is falling apart. You can see the signatures sewn there. But this definitely would fit in with Victober in a nonfiction sense. So you are about to learn something about me. I am, as you know, a bit of a history geek, and specifically, I am a history geek who totally geeks out when it comes to the Franklin expedition. And this book is one that I picked up. It's called Sir John Franklin and the Arctic Regions by P.L. Simmons. And this is the search for Sir John Franklin. and his cruise of the Erebus and Terror. 1852. So here is this book, and this is a detailed search for Sir John Franklin. The thing that I love about this book in particular is that it has a map tipped in on parchment showing the search for the Erebus and the Terror, and it does not contain the Northwest Passage because the Northwest Passage was not discovered yet. And so it's like a primary source of the journals of some of the people that went out to search for Sir John Franklin. So it's interesting to me. Will it make a great video for everyone? I don't know, but I am going to consider making a video about the Franklin expedition and all the things I've watched and read and know about it, because it just fascinates me. And there's actually some new developments and new discoveries just within the past month. So again, I'm geeking out reading all of the articles from Smithsonian and National Geographic and all of that. In addition to all of that, I'm sure I'm going to be watching some of the BBC TV adaptations and movies of some of the famous novels from the Victorian period, because of course that's fun. I'll have to rewatch all the Cranford ones, of course, and then maybe a few others as well. But anyways, that's everything I'm going to be reading. I'm very excited to participate. We'll see how much I get to. I am looking down here at a giant bag full of spooky books. So I do want to balance my spooky reading with my Victober reading and make sure I get a little bit of everything this month. I'm also going to be putting out another video in the next week or so where I talk about short stories, and that will include some Victorian short stories. So look out for that. And that is everything I have for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I would love to hear what you guys are reading in the month of October. Are you joining in the Victober challenge, or are you reading other things? Let me know down in the comments below, and have a wonderful week. Enjoy the weather, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.